Under the bright lights of a packed arena, where the air is thick with tension and the roar of an eager crowd vibrates through the walls, two warriors prepare to step into the ring. This isn't just any fight, it's a collision of skill, willpower, and legacy, with both men having everything to prove and even more to lose. Gervonta "Tank" Davis, the undefeated knockout artist with a reputation for sheer destruction, faces off against Lamont Roach Jr., a technical maestro with the heart of a lion, ready to seize the biggest opportunity of his career. The energy in the building is electric, anticipation pulsing through every spectator, journalist, and fighter watching from the shadows, waiting to see how this clash unfolds. Davis, the reigning champion, has built his career on power and precision, a devastating combination that has left a trail of fallen opponents in his wake. His left hand is a weapon of mass destruction, his footwork a trap that lures his prey into danger before they even realize it. But beyond the knockouts and the highlight reels, Tank's real strength lies in his ability to break an opponent mentally before the fight even begins. His aura is intimidating, his confidence undeniable, and his belief in his own ability unwavering. Yet, beneath the surface, questions linger. How long can his aggressive style continue to dominate? Will he finally meet a challenger who can weather the storm and expose the weaknesses beneath the power? On the other side of the ring stands Roach Jr., a fighter who has walked a different path, one defined by patience, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of greatness. He doesn't possess the one-punch knockout power of Davis, but he compensates with sharp defensive skills, an intelligent ring IQ, and the kind of tactical awareness that can make a brawler's life miserable. Roach has studied Davis meticulously, breaking down film, analyzing every movement, every tendency, every mistake. He knows that to win, he must do what no other fighter has done: neutralize Davis's offense and drag him into deep waters. But does he have the endurance, the speed, and the ability to withstand the explosive power that has made Davis one of the most feared men in boxing? The stakes are sky high, and the narrative writes itself. For Davis, this is another chance to cement his legacy, to prove once again that he is the most dangerous lightweight in the game, a champion without equal. But for Roach, this is everything. A win would rewrite his career, elevate his name to the elite level, and prove that the underdog can, indeed, rise to the occasion. It's not just about belts, it's about respect, about pride, about leaving a mark in a sport that only remembers winners. As the countdown to fight night continues, speculation runs wild. Analysts break down the styles, former champions weigh in with their predictions, and fans argue passionately about who will have their hand raised when the final bell tolls. Will Davis once again deliver a crushing knockout, silencing any doubt about his supremacy? Or will Roach shock the world, crafting the perfect game plan to pull off the unthinkable? The tension builds, the excitement mounts, and as the moment draws closer, one thing is certain: this fight will change everything. The air crackles with anticipation as the fight inches closer, with every passing moment bringing the world of boxing one step closer to an explosive collision between two men who have spent their lives preparing for this night. Gervonta Davis, with his unshakable confidence and devastating knockout power, has become the kind of fighter that sends a chill down the spine of any opponent who dares step into his path. His reputation precedes him. Champions have fallen, contenders have crumbled, and the boxing world has watched in awe as he dismantles his opposition with a ferocity that seems almost unstoppable. Yet, beneath the bright lights, beyond the deafening chants of his name, there is a layer of pressure that even the most dominant fighters must face. The burden of being at the top, the relentless need to silence the doubters, and the ever-looming question of what happens when someone finally stands up to him and refuses to fall. His path to greatness has been paved with destruction, but every great champion must answer the question: what happens when the storm meets an immovable force? Lamont Roach Jr. has spent years waiting for this very moment. The underdog, the calculated technician, the fighter who has been overlooked too many times to count. To him, this isn't just another fight, it's a reckoning. He has watched from the sidelines as others were given the spotlight, as the hype of knockout artists overshadowed the quiet discipline of fighters like him, who built their careers on skill rather than brute force. But he has seen the cracks in Davis's game, subtle moments of vulnerability hidden beneath the dominance. He knows that every punch thrown with power comes with a risk, that every aggressive step forward can leave an opening, that even the most feared fighters can be broken if the right game plan is executed. Roach is not the type to be intimidated, and while the world may see this as a mismatch, he sees it as the perfect opportunity to expose the flaws that no one has dared to challenge. Yet, despite his confidence, the reality remains he is walking into the lion's den, and one mistake could mean the difference between victory and an unforgettable defeat. As the build-up intensifies, the narrative grows more complex. The press conferences are filled with tension, Davis exuding the same effortless bravado that has defined him, while Roach remains composed, absorbing every word but refusing to engage in the psychological warfare that Davis so often wins before the first bell even rings. The boxing world splits into factions. Some believe Roach's style is precisely what is needed to neutralize Davis, that his patience and ability to counter could force the champion into unfamiliar territory. Others scoff at the notion, pointing to Davis's history of walking through opponents who thought they had the perfect strategy, only to find themselves lying on the canvas, staring up at the lights as the referee counts them out. Beyond the technical breakdowns and strategic debates, there are deeper undercurrents at play. The sport itself thrives on moments like these, where the unstoppable force meets the determined challenger, where narratives shift and legacies are defined. But boxing is also a business, and the politics of the fight game lurk just beneath the surface. Promoters, managers, and networks all have their own stakes in the outcome, each one positioning for what comes next. A Davis victory keeps the machine running: bigger fights, larger paydays, continued dominance. But an upset? That would send shockwaves through the industry, forcing a reshuffling of plans, a recalibration of the sport's hierarchy. And then there's the psychological warfare, the mental battle that has already begun long before either fighter steps into the ring. Davis, with his imposing presence, thrives on getting into the heads of his opponents, making them doubt themselves before they've even thrown a punch. Roach, knowing this, refuses to engage, his silence in the face of Davis's taunts speaking louder than any comeback ever could. Yet, beneath that calm exterior, there must be a storm brewing. The weight of expectation, the pressure of seizing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the knowledge that everything he has worked for could be decided in a matter of minutes, it all builds, simmering beneath the surface. As fight night draws closer, the tension becomes unbearable. The training camps have been brutal, every moment dedicated to preparing for the battle ahead. The gyms echo with the sounds of punches smashing into heavy bags, trainers barking instructions, and the rhythmic shuffle of footwork as each fighter sharpens their weapons for the war to come. Davis, as always, looks explosive, his sparring partners unable to keep up with his speed and power. Roach, methodical as ever, studies his movements like a chess master, refining his defense, perfecting his counters, preparing for the inevitable onslaught that will come his way. The night before the fight, the world waits. Fans speculate, experts debate, and even the fighters themselves must confront their own thoughts in the quiet moments before the storm. For Davis, it's another chance to prove that he is exactly who he says he is: the most dangerous fighter in the division, the man no one can stop. For Roach, it's the opportunity to rewrite history, to turn doubters into believers, to achieve what so many have tried and failed to do. And then, as the final hours tick away, the only thing left is the moment itself: the ring, the lights, the crowd roaring as the fighters make their way toward their destiny. What happens next will be talked about for years, but for now, the question remains unanswered. Will the power of Davis once again reign supreme? Or is this the night the world witnesses the rise of an unexpected king? The tension is unbearable, the stakes higher than ever, and as the bell prepares to ring, one thing is certain: nothing in boxing is ever guaranteed. The arena is electric, the atmosphere thick with the kind of anticipation that only a fight of this magnitude can bring. The lights above the ring blaze down like unrelenting spotlights, illuminating the stage where two men are about to put everything on the line. Gervonta Davis walks out first, his expression one of supreme confidence, his steps slow and deliberate, as if each one is a reminder to the world that he is exactly where he belongs at the top. The crowd erupts, his name echoing throughout the stadium, a mix of adoration and fear from those who have seen him dismantle opponents time and time again. He barely acknowledges it, his eyes locked on the ring, his face unreadable. This is routine for him, another night in the office, another man to break. He doesn't see threats, only obstacles that he has been trained to obliterate. Yet, deep down, somewhere beneath the bravado, there is an understanding that every great fighter eventually meets his reckoning. And the thought lingers, even if he refuses to acknowledge it. Lamont Roach Jr. follows, his demeanor composed, his energy controlled. He isn't here to put on a show, he's here to do a job, one that requires precision, patience, and a willingness to endure what others could not. He knows the narrative, he understands the odds, but none of that matters to him. What matters is that he has prepared for this moment in ways the world hasn't seen yet. He steps into the ring, and for the first time, the reality of what's about to unfold settles in. This isn't just a fight. It's a test of everything he has ever learned, every sacrifice he has ever made, every moment of doubt he has had to overcome. The weight of expectation looms over him, but he doesn't let it show. His body is loose, his mind sharp, his heart steady. He isn't here to survive, he's here to shock the world. The bell rings, and the fight begins. The first round is tense, a battle of nerves and strategy rather than reckless aggression. Davis, as expected, controls the center of the ring, stalking Roach with the confidence of a man who knows he holds the power to end things at any moment. Roach, however, does not back down. He moves with intention, his footwork measured, his jab sharp and disciplined. Every time Davis tries to close the distance, Roach makes him work for it, forcing him to reset, forcing him to rethink. The crowd is restless, expecting Davis to explode at any second, but instead, they witness something they haven't seen before: hesitation. It's subtle, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but it's there. A moment of restraint, a second of calculation, a flicker of doubt that wasn't supposed to exist. By the third round, the unexpected begins to unfold. Roach is landing, not with the kind of shots that shake an arena, but with precision, with effectiveness, with the kind of accumulation that wears a man down. Davis still has his power, his presence, but something is different tonight. His punches aren't landing clean, his timing seems just a fraction off, and the frustration is beginning to show. The champion isn't used to this, he isn't used to being made to think, to being forced to chase, to being denied the violence he so effortlessly inflicts. Roach, for the first time, has made him uncomfortable. And then, the twist. Midway through the fourth round, Davis throws a devastating left hand, the kind that has ended nights early before. It lands flush, sending Roach staggering back, the impact reverberating through the crowd. But before anyone can celebrate the inevitable, Roach does something no one expects. He smiles. It's not a taunt, not an act of arrogance, but something deeper, something unsettling. He shakes his head, as if telling Davis, that's not enough. And then he steps forward. Not away. Forward. The challenger, the man who was supposed to fear the power, is now walking into it. And for the first time in his career, Gervonta Davis feels something foreign. Uncertainty. The fight takes a turn. Roach isn't just surviving, he's pressing, countering, testing Davis in ways no one ever has. The rhythm of the fight shifts, the power dynamic starts to blur, and suddenly, the invincible aura around Davis begins to crack. He still has his power, still has his explosiveness, but Roach is forcing him into something he hasn't experienced before, a fight that isn't dictated by fear. Every round that passes without a knockout tilts the balance further, the weight of expectation now pressing down on Davis instead of Roach. The crowd feels it, the tension in the arena becoming palpable as the realization sets in. This isn't going according to script. By the 7th round, Davis's corner is shouting instructions, their voices edged with something close to urgency. They know this isn't how it was supposed to go. Roach, breathing heavily but still sharp, still calculated, knows he has done what many before him could not. He has put doubt into the mind of the most feared man in the division. But the job isn't finished. Davis is still dangerous, still capable of ending the night with a single punch. And that's what makes the next few rounds even more dangerous. A desperate man is often the most lethal. The stakes have never been higher. The next moment could change everything. And with the championship still hanging in the balance, the only question left is whether Roach can do what no one else has, or if Davis will remind the world why he is still the most feared man in boxing. The 8th round begins with an intensity that feels different from the others. The crowd senses the shift, the realization that Lamont Roach Jr. is no longer just a challenger, he's a real threat. Gervonta Davis, his face showing the early signs of wear, adjusts his stance, his breathing a little deeper, his movements a little less fluid than before. He's been here before, in fights where he had to dig deep, but something about this night feels different. Roach hasn't just absorbed his power, he's defied it. And that is something Davis is unaccustomed to. Across the ring, Roach moves with a growing confidence, his hands still fast, his head movement still sharp. He knows he has gotten into Davis's head, and that alone is a victory few have achieved. But he also knows the job isn't finished. It's one thing to push a champion, it's another to take his crown. Davis tries to reclaim control with a furious combination, his left hand ripping toward Roach's ribs, his right hook seeking an opening. Roach absorbs some of it, deflects the rest, and counters with a clean right of his own that snaps Davis's head back. The reaction from the crowd is instant, a stunned roar, the kind that signals something has shifted. Davis stumbles, just for a second, but that second is enough. Roach, usually measured, senses an opening, and for the first time in the fight, he presses forward recklessly, unleashing a combination with bad intentions. The champion, backed against the ropes, is forced to defend, his body twisting as he absorbs the shots, his famed power momentarily neutralized. But then, in an instant, everything changes. Davis, with the reflexes of a born finisher, sees an opening, just the smallest gap in Roach's assault. It's all he needs. With a quick step to the left, he plants his foot and launches a devastating uppercut, the same punch that has ended nights early for so many before. Roach never sees it coming. The impact is thunderous, his body going stiff as the shot lands flush on his chin. The world seems to pause for a split second before Roach crumples to the canvas, his arms limp, his eyes unfocused. The crowd erupts in shock, the momentum of the fight shifting in the blink of an eye. The referee rushes in, the count begins, and the tension is suffocating. Roach stirs, his hands fumbling against the mat as he tries to push himself up. The count reaches 5. Then 6. His corner is screaming at him to rise, but his legs betray him. At 8, he's on one knee, his expression dazed but determined. At 9, he tries to stand, but just as he does, his body wobbles, and he collapses back down. The referee waves it off. It's over. Gervonta Davis, battered, exhausted, but victorious, stumbles toward his corner, his team swarming him, their cheers drowned out by the chaotic noise of the crowd. He turns, looking back at Roach, who is being helped to his feet by his team. Their eyes meet, and in that moment, there is no animosity, only respect. Roach had come closer than anyone expected. He had taken Davis to places few had, forced him to question himself, made him earn this victory in a way he hadn't had to before. And in that, Roach had won something far more valuable than a belt. He had earned his place among the elite. As Davis raises his arms in victory, the night ends not with an easy triumph, but with the understanding that the landscape of the division has changed. Roach had proven he belonged, and Davis had been reminded that even the greatest can be pushed to the edge. The fight would be remembered, not just for the knockout, but for the battle. It had been a war of will, a clash of styles, and a reminder that in boxing, no crown is ever safe for long.